Hello everyone, I'm Em. Welcome back to TechBlock. Today we're going to be taking a look at HyperX's Fury RGB solid-state drive here. The model that I have is the 960 gig version. However, this is also available in different sizes, 240, 480, and 960 of course that I have here. There are also like two different kits that you can buy. There's the basic version where all you get is the SSD itself, and that's pretty much it I guess. Then there's the upgraded bundle that HyperX sent me here. Now, in a full disclosure, HyperX did send me this bad boy here, so massive thank you to HyperX for actually, I guess sponsoring this video and hooking me up with the Fury RGB SSD. Much appreciated, guys. And we're just going to be taking a look at it today, taking a look at all the various lighting effects that this HyperX SSD has. This does sync with ASUS Aura Sync, MSI Mystic Light, Gigabyte, Fusion RGB I think it's called, and AsRock's RGB software can also sync with this SSD. So pretty much all the major motherboard manufacturers like RGB sync technology I guess, or software, can sync up with the LEDs on this SSD right here. So that's real good news. So no matter what motherboard you have, chances are you can probably sync it up to all your other devices on your motherboard that happen to be compatible with like ASUS Aura Sync or something. So in my case, I've got ASUS Aura Sync compatible RAM, I've got ASUS Aura Sync compatible motherboard, GPU, and now this guy as well. So the way you're gonna actually sync it all up is where's this cable? There it is. You're gonna plug in like a micro USB connection, I guess, or like a micro USB cable into a micro USB port on the SSD here, and then plug in your like RGB sync connector into the motherboard, onto like one of the RGB headers on the motherboard, and that's pretty much it I guess. And the whole like setup process and syncing it up to all your other peripherals is very simple, and I'll go over all of it in just a moment. But today we're just going to take a look at I guess all the stuff you get with this guy, all the lighting effects, and whether or not you should buy the HyperX RGB Fury SSD. The build quality of this drive is lovely. I'm pretty sure it's like got an aluminium construction or some kind of metal. It feels great. Very high quality drive by the looks of things in terms of build quality. The entire drive, is cool to the touch. The LEDs are unfortunately not that advanced. They're not addressable. I did try to mess around with loads of lighting effects with this drive already. Unfortunately, this drive doesn't support any fancy effects like wave, at least not the kind of wave you expect. There is a wave effect in ASUS Aura Sync that I thought would make, this entire drive make like, crazy rainbow effects, basically having multiple colors on the SSD at once. That's not the case. You can only set the entire SSD to one color at a time. But ASUS Aura Sync does have loads of different lighting effects. Some of them have music modes. There's also like smart lighting effects that can change the color of the LEDs on the drive based on the temperature of like your CPU or GPU, stuff like that. So the lighting effects are still quite advanced, I'd say. You can sync it up to all your other ASUS Aura Sync compatible devices, which is good. So you can set all your devices to like a spectrum cycle or like a color cycle, and everything will just look very nice. But unfortunately, the HyperX like RGB Predator RAM I have in there doesn't quite support very many RGB lighting effects at all. In fact, I think it only supports static and breathing. Everything else is not supported by the RAM. So that's kind of a problem, but the SSD supports pretty much everything that ASUS Aura Sync has to offer, which is good. Now, before we actually go ahead and cover all the RGB lighting effects, I'm going to quickly go over everything you get when you buy the upgraded version, I guess, of this drive. So you get a 3.5-inch little bracket for the drive. So if you don't have like any 2.5-inch bays in your PC, pop this drive into a 3.5-inch like bracket, I guess, and then screw this into your PC. And that's that, I guess. Nothing too exciting, but you do get this nice little HyperX branded little bracket here. You also get this lovely thing. So this is a HyperX like external SSD enclosure. All it is really is you're gonna flip this round, open it up, and then pop your SSD in here. Very simple. It's got SATA power. It's powered via USB 3.1, I believe. So pretty sure you can achieve the actual full speed of the drive when you have it in this enclosure, which is very good. And I'm going to put the actual speed of the drive to the test via this cable. And the reason I actually have this drive in the first place is that this is going to be used in my next PC build, I guess. If not even two of them, I might actually buy a separate one myself, as I like the drive. It's pretty cool. I like the LEDs on it. The speeds are pretty much, you know, I believe like 550 read and like 520 write, something along those lines. I'll run a few speed tests on this drive in just a moment via the USB 3.1 cable that you get with the external enclosure here. So this external enclosure, very simple, you know, you're gonna pop the drive into here, just like that. It's plugged in. That's genuinely it. You're gonna close it. There's a lock little function on here as well. You're gonna click that so that you can no longer, you know, open up this external enclosure and accidentally drop your SSD. Not like that'll really matter or anything, as if you drop this, it'll probably still work. You know, it's not a freaking hard drive or anything, but don't drop your SSD. It's probably not the best idea. But anyway, you also get, you know, your USB 3.1 cable, and you're gonna plug this into this, and then you know, plug this into your PC and run some speed tests, because I do want to see what the actual speeds of this drive are in this external enclosure. And then when I actually go ahead and build this new PC, I guess this drive will be in there, powered via, you know, an actual SATA 3 cable, and you know, all that good stuff, straight to the motherboard, not a USB cable. And then we're going to run some more speed tests, and I guess try to see whether there's any difference using the drive via USB 3.1 cable or an actual, you know, dedicated SATA connection to the motherboard. So, all that said, gonna go hop onto my PC here and plug the drive into a USB 3.1 port, as I'm pretty sure I have one on this motherboard. Right, what cable is this? Oh, that's the mouse mat. Okay. I'm running out of USB ports at the back of my motherboard. We have like, I think 12 maybe? Every single one's populated. There we go. Right, so the drive is plugged in into, I believe, what is a USB 3.1 Gen 2 port on my motherboard, I think. But I've got Crystal Disk Mark right here. We've got OBS running in the background as well, recording my screen. And all I'm gonna do is press, I guess, run 1 gig 5 times. Now, I'm expecting the speeds to be pretty good, you know, somewhere around the range of 550 write, or 550 read and like 520 write. Somewhere along that range, I suppose. So we'll fast forward, I guess. Oh dear God, we got 437.1 read on the sequential. All right, so the results are in. We got 438 read, 445 write. Now, the reason these speeds are probably quite a bit lower than expected is because the drive is currently plugged in via USB cable. If we were to plug this in via an actual SATA cable straight into our motherboard, we'd probably be getting closer to the, you know, advertised performance of the drive. However, these speeds are still pretty freaking good. You know, bear in mind that it's currently plugged in via USB. Still pretty good speeds. Right, so I'm gonna go ahead and eject the drive. There we go. Let's take it out of its enclosure real quick. Oh, it's locked. You have to unlock it just like that. Take that out. Then you're gonna take the whole SSD out as well. Taking the SSD out of this enclosure, oh, it's actually really easy. Right, so that was, I guess, the speed test results for the, you know, USB 3.1 cable you get with it and the external enclosure. Let's go ahead and plug this into our motherboard, sync it up with ASUS or a sync, and take a look at some of the beautiful lighting effects this drive has. Now, there's a couple ways I guess I can go about powering the LEDs and the actual drive itself. One way is this, you know, USB 3.0 to SATA 3 hard drive adapter. This is one way, and I think this is the way I'm going to go ahead and try to do. So I'm going to plug this into my motherboard. Right, so I'm just going to go ahead and plug this guy in. Right, I don't think it's quite receiving enough power to actually power the drive. So that's why we have this. We can now, there we go. Now it's receiving power. So this is plugged into the wall. The SSD, because of this, will get a tad warm, I'd say. But the LEDs are powered. It looks pretty nice. Now, once again, you can only set a single color for the entire drive. So you can't set this to, like, you know, blue, red, green. You can't. You can only set the whole thing to, like, you know, either red, blue, green, whatever color you want really, but only one color at a time for the entire drive. Now, if you intend to go for, like, I guess a red theme for your PC build, or you just want the LEDs on this drive to always be red, you really don't have to plug in the RGB connector into this SSD, mainly because by default, the LEDs on this drive are red. But if you want to change that to a different color, then you're gonna have to plug in your, you know, RGB cable into this drive. So I'm gonna do that now. There's just a little cable there. I'm gonna plug that in. Now, this does also act as like a pass-through cable, I suppose, for other RGB devices. So you can daisy chain this to you know, let's say like an ASUS LED strip, or, you know, some other RGB compatible device from ASUS or Sync, I guess. Now, as for the actual like RGB cable that you get with this, you know, it's a 4-pin RGB cable. The pin with the arrow, you're gonna wanna plug that into the 12-volt pin on your motherboard. If you don't, and you plug it in the other way around, you're not gonna be able to control any of the LEDs, as the drive is plugged in incorrectly. So make sure the arrow is plugged into the 12-volt pin on your motherboard. It's pretty simple stuff, really. Everything on your motherboard should be labeled anyway, so it really shouldn't be difficult to figure out which one is the 12-volt pin. Anyway, I'm gonna shut my PC down, as I'm not entirely sure if it's safe to be plugging in these kind of cables into my PC whilst the PC is on. So for safety reasons, I'm gonna shut down the whole rig and plug it in. But before we do that, I'm also going to take this monitor off, as it's on VESA mount, and I can just very easily remove it. Okay, I'm gonna turn the power supply off. There we go. I'm gonna take off the tempered glass side panel. Now on my motherboard, I believe there are like 2 RGB headers, like 2 pairs, I guess. There are 2 RGB and then 2 addressable RGB headers on the motherboard. So there are 2 like at the very bottom here, and then 2 right there above the like start button. So the one I'm gonna use is header 1, as I did try header 2 yesterday. However, I think that might be broken. I don't know. It's either like ASUS or Sync software didn't like header 2, or it's physically like messed up, or I broke it. I don't know. But either way, I couldn't get the RGB header 2 to work whatsoever. But header 1 works absolutely fine. So the ports are at the very bottom here. Plugging in this goddamn cable is a nightmare. Oh, there we go. Plugged it in correctly now. So I believe when you plug it in correctly, this is how it should look like. It should turn white, at least I think it should. So that's how it looks like. It looks pretty sick. All the LEDs are white. They're pretty bright as well, I'd say. All right, so let's turn the motherboard on. There we go, it's on, you saw. I believe it's, there we go. I think it's synced up to the motherboard LEDs back there, if you can probably see that. Now I'm pretty sure it's remembered the settings from ASUS or Sync that I set up yesterday, so that's probably why it's like immediately synced up. But that's pretty cool, I guess, right? Let's turn it on. All right, so the PC is still booting up in Windows. Oh, it's finally done. But the SSD, the graphics card, and the motherboard LEDs are all perfectly in sync. All right, so I'm on the ASUS or Sync software right here. Under settings, Philips Hue is supported by ASUS or Sync, which is pretty cool. And then under RGB headers, which is what you want when dealing with this SSD, go over to calibration, select the correct RGB header that your drive is connected to. In my case, it's header 1 because header 2 is broken. It will say which color does the RGB LED light strip show up. Red, blue, green, and there you go. Calibration done, the drive is synced up, that's it. Now, in terms of lighting effects, of course you have static, so you can press apply, and okay, everything turned off. Oh, the brightness is set to 0. I'm like, what the heck just happened? And saturation is also set to nothing. So I've gone ahead and set everything to red, the SSD, the graphics card, half of my RAM, and the motherboard. Don't know why half of the RAM is lighting up, but anyway, the RAM barely supports any of the ASUS or Sync functions anyway. There's also breathing. Let's set this to a green color and enable the breathing color effect, I guess. So the RAM is completely out of sync, but everything else is fine. So that's good. Breathing is a pretty cool effect. You have color cycle. The RAM is not supported. That's pretty much where the supports for LED effects end for the HyperX RAM, but everything else beautifully syncs together, no problems. We got rainbow, pretty much color cycle, I guess, but you can select a different sequence for it, I suppose. So that's kind of cool. We have comet, which I found to be a very strange effect. So what this does is you'll occasionally see one of the devices flash. There we go. That flashed. Then like the graphics card or the motherboard will flash once. So it's a pretty strange LED lighting effect, I guess, but it is what it is. We have flash and dash. I'm like expecting something to happen, but nothing really happens. Now there is also a wave effect. However, not the kind of wave effect you're expecting. So you can only pretty much set it to one color, or you can set it by area here. So, you know, back IO, PCH, bunch of other stuff here really. So that's that. We have glowing yo-yo, an interesting name for an RGB lighting effect, but I guess the brightness now and again increases and then decreases. Yeah, pretty much. So the brightness increases and then decreases Pretty cool. We have an effect called Starry Night, apparently. Let's set this to a cyan color. Okay, we also have strobing. Let's set this to red. Now, what does strobing do? Yeah, these two flash, then that one flashes. And then we can get into some more exciting effects, I guess. So we have either color by temperature or color by CPU loading. Oh, there's no GPU loading support at all, but that's all right, I guess. So, god damn it, Windows, stop, please. Right, so let's enable this one. Now, based on the temperature of my CPU, being 40 degrees will be green, 40 to 60 will be yellow, and then anything above 60 degrees Celsius will be red. So at the moment, we're currently sitting at around 50 degrees Celsius, maybe even like, 45, as it's kind of like a greenish color as well. So that's that, and you can also set it by CPU load. So at the moment, because of OBS, we're currently at like 17% CPU load, so nothing really exciting. But if I turn on Google Chrome, this might, there we go, we went to yellow, red, and now it's back to like 0. So that's that. Finally, we have a music mode. Now, you'd probably expect this music mode to be freaking awesome. I don't know about that. I really don't know about that. Right, let's play some music, yeah? Try out this music mode. It's currently set to jazz. Let's set it to party, all right? That is the kind of mode we want. The actual responsiveness and the music mode in general, not that impressive in my opinion. But it's cool nonetheless that it's there. Let's try rock. So, kind of different colors, I guess. Oh, rock is the best. This is like RGB. Well, that's the music mode, I guess. It is what it is. We got sleep mode apparently. Why would you want a music sleep mode? That's strange. Right, so that's pretty much it, I guess. For the HyperX Fury RGB SSD, we covered the lighting effects. We took a look at a speed test via the external enclosure. Oh, I forgot one thing you get with this. Damn. So with the upgraded like SSD kit that you buy from HyperX, you get one of these. Now, at first, I'm like, you get a pen with your SSD? Why would HyperX give you a pen? This is no pen. This is a screwdriver with 3 different heads. Now, with this screwdriver, you could probably build an entire PC. It's pretty much got all the heads you need, really. So let's actually, put one of these on, just like that, and you can pop the rest of these heads back inside and screw the cap back on. There we go. You have a screwdriver, and there you go. You have your HyperX screwdriver here, ready to go, ready to build your PC and stuff. So that's pretty cool. And then you also, of course, get one of these bad boys, a SATA 3 cable. This one's 45 centimeters long with standard, straight connectors here, not right-angled SATA 3 connectors, but just standard connectors there. Anyway, if you want to go learn more about the HyperX Fury RGB SSD, all your links you need will be down below in the description. Links to Amazon as well as HyperX's actual website on this drive are all down below in the description. So if you want to go learn more and read up about the actual specifics of the drive, the actual specs of it and stuff, all that info's down there on their website. But yeah, apart from that, guys, the next video for PC hardware will probably be a PC case unboxing, and that's going to be the PC case that we're going to be building in February. So brand new PC build coming in the next, I'd say 1 to 2 weeks. 2 weeks, being the latest, but I'm pretty sure the new PC build will get started on probably in the next week or so. But yeah. That's pretty much it, I guess. Thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to see you in another video soon. Goodbye.